Welcome, brother. How are you?
uh, Interesting question. I'm good though. I'm good, but just trying to stay busy, you know. How about you?
Oh, it's been an interesting few days for me personally, but otherwise, life goes on, and uh, spreading the joy as we always do. But I'm
Gotta try.
gonna throw you a curveball here. What are we calling you today? What's your name?
We can go by Phil.
Sup, Phil? So,
Yeah.
gonna hit some people in the fields. So, feel like that
Go
should be the
for it.
plan.
Yeah, yeah,
So, so tell me the story, man. I call it the superhuman origin story of what got you into what you do, and we'll go from there.
yeah. Well, let's see. I guess I've just been creating uh my whole life, or just more so like drawing and trying to make things with my hands. Um, yeah, that just kind of it's funny because you started out thinking, well, some people do. You started like, all right, I draw, I'm gonna be an illustrator. I like making comics, yada yada yada. But then, one day you're skipping school and smoking cigarettes and trying to be cool at the coffee shop, and someone's like, hey, you want to do some vocals for a band we're starting? I'm like, all right, cool, I guess so. And then it just diverts everything. But yeah, so yeah, it was basically like since like two to maybe like senior year of high school, I was like an artist. I was like, I'm gonna be in gallery shows. And then music kind of came out of nowhere. And yeah, it just took over my life. And yeah, just been doing that ever since. So it's been like past 15 years of just like doing shows, making music. Um, yeah. And yeah, now I'm trying to like kind of go back into the artist side and develop that a little bit more because that took a little bit of a neglectful turn for a while, but we're back in it now. But yeah, that's basically it. I just have had the opportunity to make music and yeah, make music for people and all that kind of stuff.
Tell us about the music then. Is it the band that I know of is the Feels? That's how you say that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Is that where
The
it
Feels
started for you?
was
Yeah.
no. That was like a very late in the game project, but um, I started putting stuff out on MySpace um, back in MySpace days, and then um, yeah, I got hit up by this random lady on MySpace who was from London. She like worked at this label. She was like, "Man, I like the stuff you've been putting up." And I was like, "Oh, cool, thanks." Like at that time, I had no perception of the music industry. Like I thought Britney Spears wrote and produced all her music. That like the Jackson Five were these amazing kids who were just jamming all day, but which they were. But like I didn't know that there was like producers and songwriters and all these things, whatever. But she's like, "Look what you're doing. Do you have any more?" And I was like, Absolutely not. Uh, I just kind of do this as a hobby." And she was like, "Well, I I like how this sounds." I was like sampling a lot at that time because I didn't have any instruments. But she was like, "I'm gonna fly you out to London. Um, we're gonna record. I work for this label called XL Records, which they're a pretty big label out there. They have like people like Jack White and like MIA and like all these UK people. But yeah, I went out there and I was like, no one's paying me to draw or flying me across the world to draw, so I'll just do this. And yeah, so I started doing that under the name Dog Bite. Um, and then went out there, recorded some stuff, had some fun for like a month. And then right when I came back to the US, I met these dudes through MySpace. Um, One was Chaz, another was Ernest. Chaz has a band called Tori Moi, and he became very successful. And the other dude, Ernest, was in a band called Washed Out. And yeah, I like literally right when I came back from London, Ernest was like, oh, well, no, I'm sorry. I met Chaz. Chaz was like, yo, you should meet my friend Ernest. And then I came back and Ernest was like, yo, trying to go on tour. Like you're in Georgia, I'm in Georgia. Like let's try and figure something out. So I started touring with Washed Out for 2 years. And that was a very interesting thing of like going around the world and playing music like for people, like big crowds and stuff at theaters and festivals and all that stuff, which I had no perception of really. Like I was just like, oh, I guess this is how everyone's music experiences. Like you put songs on MySpace and then all of a sudden you're on tour and doing all this shit, blah blah. But yeah, so I did that for a while, and then I got pretty much got fired from that because it was like a band of like Ernest was the front man, but he hired like a bassist, a drummer, and keys, which I was doing. But we were all kind of like frontmen um, in our own rights. So yeah, I would just do stupid shit at a certain point. And I had no perception, but I would like start claps and shit in the middle of the show, and just like it was just it got too weird. But so I got got ejected from that, and then I started producing um, under the name Haunted, and that kind of led into the Pheels. So at that point, Dogbite was kind of like a faraway image in distance. Like it used to be something I could do, but I don't really feel like doing it anymore. So the Pheels came about, and yeah, that was another like fun thing of like, oh, I make music with this guy I smoke weed with and play video games with. Um, Before that, I didn't even know he made music. He had no idea I made music, but we knew each other for like 2 years, just literally like smoking and hanging out and just talking shit. Until one day we decided to make it, and yeah, that did fairly well too. But that has been on hiatus, so it's been producing in LA for the past 2, 3 years. Yeah.
Nice. So you're in Los Angeles, right?
I live out there, but right now I'm in Jersey,
Jersey.
visiting some family.
I always see your it's what fucked me up with the time zone actually, because I saw on your Los Angeles on your MySpace or your MySpace. I wish it was still MySpace. Instagram.
It pretty much is, you know.
Yeah, MySpace on the brain. But yeah, so I call the current thing going around the joy. And there's one solution for the joy, which I call a lollipop, and those of us who remain sugar-free. But where you are, how are things that way?
Very sugar-free. I just I don't have a taste for sugar, so I just try to leave it alone. If everyone else has a sugar tooth, that's do your thing, but I'm just abstaining.
I mean, more just like your area. How's it being treated? Like, how's it affected things? Or is
I mean,
that
I
why
guess.
you're in LA?
Well, well, it's funny because it's like, all this is going on, but how can I say this without sounding like pretentious? I've kind of like crafted like a world around me where like I don't have to participate too much in that, all that sort of stuff. So I haven't really been affected too much by it, which I'm sure that's coming up. But yeah, so far it's been pretty chill. I'm pretty much like either at my place or going to someone's studio or someone else's house. Like, yeah, it hasn't really been a problem too much.
Well, that's kind of a good thing, I guess. If you're kind of hurts performing, I guess, for people who are like kind of dependent on
Yeah.
going and gigging and stuff. That hurts. But for recording projects, I guess it kind of opens a door because everyone's kind of a little bit more available, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
And maybe also a little bit more inspired, which yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
kind of wondering what let's start with like your visual art. What would be kind of like your bigger inspirations through that? Like I've never seen any of it, I don't think, so I'm not really sure that I could visualize it, but at the same time, like kind of what was going on in the mind of a young you that kind of pushed you towards expressing it through drawing.
I don't know. I've always loved cartoons. Just like it's just always been appealing. Like even more so than than like real like live stuff. I've just always gravitated towards that. So that started out with regular ass Looney Tunes kind of stuff, and then you're watching Doug, then Dexter's Laboratory, and you're like, oh, Ren and Stimpy. Oh, this is interesting. And then because I'm 32 right now, so when I was a kid growing up, like I would catch glimpses of this thing that was anime, but I had no idea what the fuck it was because you would catch something at like the last 5 minutes of it, and you can't rewind it. It's just on TV. But yeah, so once I realized what anime was, that kind of inspired me a lot. Just their techniques and all that stuff. But my style is usually taking more of like a cartoony kind of vibe. Yeah, it's just been appealing to me for some reason.
Awesome. And then have you done vocals as well, like lyrics, vocals? That's what you do for the
Yeah.
Pheels, right? What
No,
were you?
well, that was for only for my first project. When I was doing the frontman stuff. The Pheels is my with my friend Curtis. He was doing all the vocals for that.
I wasn't sure if that was both of you when I was
Yeah,
or just
at that point I was too lazy to do vocals. So I was like, I can't. I can't.
fair enough. What's your inspiration behind the name Haunted? I wanted to ask that one too.
That's one of those things I have no idea. Yeah, I kind of was like at the end of the dog bite adventure. I was like just sitting there at my friend's crib, just like, what the fuck am I gonna do? Like I don't really want to make any more indie kind of guitar stuff right now. Like I don't know, but there was this dude named Jai Paul who had sadly his whole album leaked, which was like a huge inspiration for me. But I was just wanting to make something new, and I was like, I want a different name because I thought Dog Bite really sucked. But I was just kind of like, I want a different name that's kind of like grabbing attention, like what the fuck is that? What's haunt? Like what? So yeah, Haunted for some reason came to me, and I was just like, that's cool with me. Usually once I pick a name, just like I'll just go through with it until I hate it.
Yeah, I have to name things all the time, and there's nothing more difficult than thinking of like a band name, like something
Yeah,
that you're going to be like stuck with, like that is just going to be there. Remember for
exactly.
my band, The Mind Site. Obviously, we actually wanted to call ourselves just Mind Site. The got thrown on because there already was a Mind Site based out of Chicago, and but even just
Compromise.
coming up with that was like months of hell. Like
Oh
us,
yeah.
or like not even really fighting with each other, but just like going back and forth over like what this name meant versus what that name meant, and like trying to find something that
Dude.
actually like resonated with all five of us, when very similar to what you were talking about, like we were all frontmen, so like we
Right.
all could front our own bands, and we all thought we knew what was up. And yeah, just four girlfriends.
Let me tell you the first my first high school band's name, which we took 2 months to deliberate on, but the name was Tangelo Tantrum. And I was like, this is the worst name. Like, and I believe I had to like destroy all those copies because I couldn't see that name after a while. I was just like, this is failure on so many levels. But Yeah, names are difficult
How do you feel
sometimes.
when you go back through your old catalog, when you listen to like some of your earlier music today? Like, how do you feel?
I very rarely do because a lot of that music is like very tied into like what I was doing at the time, who I was around with. So like as soon as I hear like a millisecond of the first note of the song, I'm like, oh nope, cut it off. It's like I'm already back in that place, which is not necessarily a bad place, but it's just like I don't want to go there for some reason. But yeah, I think the farthest back I usually will go is like maybe like 2 or 3 years, but anything farther than that, I'm very hesitant usually.
Yeah, it's funny for me because I like write vocals, and I think back to like the first Mindsight CD, and I was listening to it not that long ago and thinking, man, I haven't really changed a lot. I'm saying a lot of saying a lot of the same
Yeah,
shit. It's kind of funny, but the memory attached to the experience of producing it, like recording it and everything involved in it, it's
mhm.
impossible to listen to it and not have that be forefront. Like I can
Oh
remember
yeah,
times of just trying to sit there, like smoke a joint and just try to focus on the song, focus on the music, and I can't because I'm remembering some stupid, you know,
yeah, exactly.
thing attached to recording or producing or even just writing it.
Yeah,
Kind of
yeah.
funny. Yeah. Then I also have these experiences where like I'll be somewhere like that I wrote a song or that I came up with an idea for a song, and it's a really strange thing because I'll just be walking and then that song will come into my head and I'll be like, what
Right.
is that? And then I'll realize, oh, I was here when I came up with the majority of the idea for that song. So funny with, and
Yeah,
I think we do
there's
that even when we don't write the music, we still do that, right?
yeah, there's like a sort of like weird resonance that it kind of leaves, like either like the idea of making something or I don't know, it's maybe the act of it, or but just like the leaves, like a like a mist around that place for I don't know how long, but it seems to be for as long as you can remember it.
Yeah. No, it's like it's interesting when I don't know, have you ever experienced hearing it back from someone where they're like, oh, I remember that song from you, and like, it's attached to this thing in my life.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
That,
that's uh, uh that's again that's another one that I try try to avoid usually. I don't know why. I don't know, but usually when someone brings it up, I'm like, oh yeah, but I have this new thing that I'm doing, and like just totally try to divert. I need to maybe I should go back and listen to some.
maybe, maybe. And you said you want to get back into doing art now a little bit more visual stuff.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot more drawing and 3D work like most recently because that's something I've always been interested in, but have always been not scared, but like really like, hey, whoa, that's not for me. I'm just a simple guy, pen and paper, that's all I need. But it's been really fun, like just making different worlds and even like making a cartoon is like a 3D model. That's been like for some reason very satisfying, like because I've never like gotten to see that kind of stuff for myself. But yeah, I've just been trying to focus more on that, just because I've been like feeling a little burnt on music, um, in the capacity of like trying to get placements and like trying to put out releases and all that stuff. I was just kind of like, let me take a break and refocus.
Imagine, like I can imagine, like kind of looking at getting into the 3D space of art being like the learning curve there. Like, no, thank you. But maybe
Right.
the technology is obviously has come a long way in a very short amount of time. Like some of those programs now, like you can do things with, touches of buttons that used to take like coding to pull off in the
Yeah,
past. Right. So it's kind of
and it's
impressive.
all free. It's very like I have this program called Blender that like a lot of major studios use in major motion pictures. Like if you've seen like Into the Spideyverse, the like animated Spider-Man movie, which I think is amazing.
Is it
But
good?
they did, yeah, it's everything. Like I'm like a very big film critic, very hard to please in that way, but they've gone above and beyond to make it good. But they use this program called Blender, which is 100% free, but can do all that same professional level kind of work. It's just like interesting time to be alive.
Yeah, no doubt, in a lot of different ways. Just in terms of like new technology and stuff. I was actually just listening to a Joe Rogan podcast with Beeble, who didn't realize I actually have a shirt that has his artwork on it. I didn't know it was his artwork. I just liked the shirt and,
Yeah, it makes
and
sense.
bought it. But yeah, he was talking about, you know, being able to do that, like just how easy it's becoming with the newer technologies. And I can remember that boom with recording music, right? When they started, like, you know, Pro Tools became affordable, or something like FL Studio had just come out, you know, like your Fruity Loops as it was back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
And
but you know, a lot of producers are still like in love with Fruity Loops, especially like the drums sequencer on that. Like,
yeah.
I've been very tempted to to get Fruity Loops the past couple months.
Oh yeah, I was talking to my kid about it actually. They brought up like wanting to get into doing it, and I was like, well, I remember like what I used back in the day when I first decided I wanted to do it was this. And they Googled it right away, and they're like, oh, apparently like all this music that I love has been done in that. And I'm like, there you go, like, you know, way to go. But yeah, that's with visual technology, it's been a huge boom. Like if you even just think of the way cameras have exploded in phones, and the stuff you can do with photography just with Instagram filters and everything, it's really like, you know, obviously leading us towards this augmented reality that we seem to be walking into in a hurry, but it's also a lot of fun for creation. Like I remember it, like I actually still have most of my first setup in Pro Tools because it, you know, kind of does last like that, which is kind of cool. But also just like the creative freedom it gave you is like, you know, think about doing that when you were recording to tape, man. Like imagine doing the shit we were just recording to tape. It's impossible. You would never.
Oh no. No, yeah, I mean, and there is like a like, I don't want to say I feel lucky that I got to go through that process of like being in, you know, a someone's dingy basement with like a 16 track cassette recorder, like, and trying to like get these takes right and whatnot. But it's just, I don't know. It's like compared to what, and that wasn't even that long ago. Like just compared to like how it is now, I'm just like it gave me a sort of patience and a sort of like imagination for my music, because even now producers kind of are literally given sounds to make music with, and are like, here's what you're gonna make with, because this is what we want you to sound like. And it's like, I kind of miss like that weird, like very personal like thing where like, oh yeah, well I fucked up in the compression thing, so it didn't sound right, or like there's a weird hissing in the background, like those kind of personal touches. I do kind of miss, but you know, they haven't gone away completely just yet.
I mean, we could always put them back in. I don't know that you know, you can still do it. Like I do it with a lot of things. Fuck, I do it with this podcast. I think get a better camera and shit. I just don't care. there's a rawness to it that's meant to be that way. It's just, you know, people having conversations. But you know, I hear like sound quality differences when it comes to like old analog shit versus digital stuff for sure. But I don't really. I guess that there's a different type of appreciation for it when it comes to visual stuff. It's almost like I like the direction we've moved in a lot better, whereas like in the other way, I kind of do miss the warm sound of an analog, you know, recording, you know. But with visual stuff, like this kind of digital edge that we're giving it, I don't know, maybe it's because I've done too many psychedelics in my life, but I feel like it's giving off a different level of creativity that we didn't have otherwise, right? If it wasn't for
Yeah.
the CGI type space.
No, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that kind of got me back into drawing is my friend, uh, she gifted me with an Oculus Rift, like one of those new VR things, and just going in there, interacting with people, and like drawing in these worlds, or like sitting in a movie theater in these. It was just like, wow, like there's so much possibility of like in this space that we're cultivated for whatever, but it's just like it was just very inspiring because I was like, there's a very awesome direction this could go in, or there's a very unawesome way this could go in. And I was like, maybe I can hopefully put my little 2 positive cents in there, and someone might be like, yeah, that's not a bad idea. Let's do more of that. So yeah, because I can definitely see it going awry very, very quickly.
Yeah, but it's a good attitude to have, and I share that attitude where it's like it's gonna be there regardless, right?
Right.
Like even if I don't like the idea of it, it's like reminds me of the early days of the internet when like people a little bit older than me were like, why would you want to talk to people on a computer when you know what I mean? Well, because now I get to see a perspective of someone that doesn't live down the street from me, you know, and now I can understand maybe what life is like in Russia or in like, multiple other countries. There's a lot of different applications of this. It's not just, I could become some immobile blob that just plays on the internet all day. It's a tool. I get to choose what I'm going to do with it. So, exactly. I mean, when it comes to this, for creative people, there is a huge new world of potential coming, and especially when it comes to the visual end of it, because like everyone's going to want, like just think of like the idea of the multiverse and like all the different avatars that can possibly be conceived. And then there's going to be things where it's like, you bought a haunted avatar, you know what I mean? Like, awesome, your new avatar is sick. I need to save up some money so I can get me a haunted avatar, like things like that are going to be possible.
Well, it's actually going on right now, like in the Rift. I can't remember the name of the app. It's something like Hangout or something like that. But it's basically like these huge worlds where you can get pretty much any avatar you want. Like if you want to be Scooby-Doo, you can go and get a Scooby-Doo thing. If you want to be some random anime character that no one's ever really heard of, like if you're patient enough, you can go and get that that character and walk around in this world and interact with these people as that character. And it's very interesting seeing people because we kind of walk around, well, I mean, we literally do walk around with masks every day, but when you put it under another level where like you put 2 masks on, people become very open to to saying whatever is on their mind or whoever they want to become. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to be the AI supercomputer watching all of the people. I wish I had that perspective some days where it's just like, it reminds me of when I hear of like the NSA. I was like, I would love that power for like a few hours to like listen to all those different conversations and see what I could glean about humanity from them, because it's kind of what I do with life anyways, is talk to people and try to figure people out, right? So it's in a way, it's and it's something that I have always loved about the internet, is it gives you the ability to watch people in groups, and it gives you the ability to be a fly on the wall for conversations and things like that that you wouldn't, without the internet you wouldn't have. And obviously everything becoming this kind of interconnected through something like a metaverse or any type of digital space, even like all the various applications of VR technology that they could use. Like I remember reading one, seeing something about one that was like a camera on top of the pyramids where you could then put that on and like sit up there and just kind
Yeah.
of look around, you know, like
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
awesome
I've
would
done stuff
that
like
be,
that.
right? Like you can't say this is all bad. I think what a lot of us, you know, are, and you know, my generation and yours, because you're like 10 years younger than me, are like kind of the nostalgia berries are like eating our brain right now, and they're like, be careful, like you're gonna lose so much. You've already lost so much of like the way life was. That how much are
Yeah.
where's that line? Where are you gonna say enough is enough?
I mean, there is that feeling, like, especially when I first tried out the Oculus and was like going to Machu Picchu and like just looking around as this guy does a tour, and I'm like, it's like exhilarating, fun. Then you take it off, and you're like, there is like this weird feeling of like you feel like something is trying to drag you like over back into that space where you're kind of like, well, I mean, at least for me, I felt a little uncomfortable after a while of like, you know what, like I like here. I'm gonna like try and keep my mind here for right now, but like that space is very alluring because it's just, again, it's those endless possibilities.
Are you a big nature guy?
Yeah, I mean, because I don't like drive at all, like it's just uh, my mind, I lose my mind if I have to drive. But because I don't, I'm like on foot or taking the train or catching Uber usually. So I like being outside. It's been uh, essential part of my life, just walking and trying to explore. Like I remember seeing on your Instagram, like maybe a year or two ago, you're doing a lot of like just walking around and like um, filming stuff, and I was like, hey, I do the same shit. Go
Yeah.
talk to some animal for a little bit, go meet some weird person, go chill by a fucking lake or some shit, and then go back home. But yeah, I do like being outside. I try to at least maintain a little bit of a connection, a little sunbathing, a little uh, yeah, just like a lot of strolls outside.
Yeah. Yeah, I call it wandering. It's my,
Yeah,
my
for
thing to
sure.
do whenever I have the free time. It's like it's exercise, it's educational, and obviously like, you know,
Exactly.
people watching and then also getting out into nature. Toronto is really great for it because we have like so many different things to see. Like there's so many different little pockets of the city itself, and then a
Yeah.
lot of parks and like ravines, and we've got like a
Hmm.
conservation area just at the end of my street. Like it's really quite cool, beaches. So it's kind of nice to have like both of those looks like in one single big loop. I can like
Yeah.
be around like, you know, hundreds of people, and then, you know, come around the other side of the loop and I'm like walking with a groundhog or something. You know, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I liked California, because I've been on the East Coast for most of my life, or in the South. But when I went out to LA, like even just recently, I was staying out in Malibu for a little bit, just working with some friends. We're trying to do like a kind of like a think tanky kind of thing. But he lived, how can I describe this? He lives on a ranch, sort of. So there's just like, it's so strange because it's like you're right off the beach, but you go into this neighborhood and it's just like huge open land. There's like goats and horses. There's like a monastery that was like um like super close to it. Like you got the beach, there's woods, and I was just like, I don't know what. Well, I mean, I'm sure you can talk about shrooms here, but I would just be like taking shrooms and just be gone for the day, like just exploring all over the place. It was just that was like one of the fun recent ones. But being out here, in Jersey, it's kind of like very limited. It's just very like a lot of city, a lot of concrete, which is fine, but it's not as wondrous as just like being in the middle of some random woods somewhere.
you kind of bridge the gap on a question I was thinking about asking anyways about psychedelics. Just
Oh yeah,
wondering,
yeah, yeah.
like if you had played with those and if they inspired artwork as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for sure, that was like um, one of the things, because I kind of got hip to the idea of like, 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 how can I say this? Like using your mind like as a actual tool because of anime. So when I was 13, 14, I was like, oh, I like meditating. I like doing these things of exploring inside of myself, which people found strange at the time, but people have classes now. But so when I started smoking weed, like those first times were like almost like a psychedelic thing of like closing my eyes and like seeing like full on cartoon weird characters walking around, and then trying shrooms. I think I was like 15, 16. But yeah, I've run the gambit pretty much on that. Shrooms, acid, um, yeah. But especially when I was younger, I was just like, if it's not gonna kill me, I'll try it out. Like, let's see what it's about. But yeah, I've always gravitated mostly towards psychedelics. Um, they've always given me very interesting perspectives, and when I actually have questions, very interesting answers. So yeah, I usually enjoy them. I haven't tripped in a minute though, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
by a
it's
minute I mean like 2 or 3 months, but yeah.
I was recently reread. Fuck, I can't remember the title. I can't remember the title, but the book is about how the Catholic Church may have got a lot of their ideas coming from magic mushrooms. Something in the
Oh yeah.
Sacred Cross. Anyways, it inspired me to take some Christmas Eve. So that's in my plan for the holiday season. I'm like,
Yeah,
you know
nice.
what? I'm gonna give this one a Christmas Eve. That's what Christmas Eve is
Yeah,
getting this year. So, but yeah,
I support it.
I like to use them as kind of a reset. Like I think it's true for all of us, but I notice like patterns that I get into, thought patterns, and some of them aren't healthy. And if I find myself kind of getting stuck in something like that, I'll use mushrooms as the way to kick my ass out of it. And
Yeah.
batting average is quite perfect with it, so I continue to use it as that kind of a tool, and it works. So what better way to
Yeah.
start a new year, right?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had like a bad trip. Like I've taken something that I thought was something else and had a different experience, but yeah, they've always been like fairly positive, especially in the past maybe 10 years or so. Just because before that, I wasn't really like, I didn't have the mentality of like, oh, this is like nowadays I consider it like almost like a medicine, like a something to purge almost. And but before I was just kind of like, oh, I want to see some crazy shit. Like I want to experience something different. But ever since I started taking that perspective of like, okay, this is something that can not even can, that will help me if I allow it to. It's it's just weird. It's just so funny because like you go into it sometimes, you know, like, all right, little piece of chocolate, like I would like to get an answer to something or to this specific thing. And then somehow, some way, your day slithers into this grand answer that you really did not uh, even see coming. But yeah, it's always been very beneficial in me.
Yeah, I think bad trips for people are just like, having to look at the stuff that they don't want to, where I think, if you're
Right.
approaching it with that intention that you want to look at something, then it doesn't feel bad, right? That's what you came here for. And if you feel bad
Exactly.
about it in those moments, because I've had trips where I'm doing exactly like that, and it feels bad, but it feels bad because the situation that I want to work through feels bad. And I'm trying to find the reason why it feels bad so that I can help it feel less bad, and work through it. So I don't know. I tell people the same thing, and obviously setting and company can matter a lot.
Oh yeah.
But the bad trip it's usually there for a reason. You might want to
Yeah.
you might want to take a look at why that reason is.
Yeah, people like to look away in those instances, but it's kind of like, I just tell people like it's kind of like if you're at the beach, it's like a huge crashing wave. Like you can try and tense up and but sometimes it's just better just to put your arms out and let the wave hit you for a second. It might wake you up and you might become a better swimmer all of a sudden. I don't know.
That's right. And if not, then you got a fun story to tell, which is
which is always good.
Which is always good. So in terms of this whole joy thing, how do you feel about it? Do you think it's going to get worse or better, or what are you hopeful for in that, or what are you seeing coming in that way?
I think it's gonna be a nice little mix of both. That's usually the way these things go, apparently. But like at this point, it doesn't hugely affect my life, but I feel like I'm one of the last few that it hasn't touched just yet. So I'm sure it's gonna, in the next, year or two, especially with other instances that'll happen in the world, I'm sure that kind of pressure will build to do it. But you know, it's just kind of one of those things like I can't really stop doing what I'm doing at this point. And yeah, it's just like I'm gonna have to carve my own space out of this weird joy that's going on, which is fine, that's how life goes sometimes. But yeah, I just hope people don't, my only thing is like I just don't like having to live by, I don't want to say crazy people, that sounds mean, but like I don't want to have to live by weird rules set up by weird people and then have to go about it. But again, you have to carve out your own space sometimes.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of one way or another trying to figure that out. I try to keep my ear on both sides and really look at both sides. It's getting a lot harder to support the side, the one side, because now so much we didn't know we do know now, and
right. It's very obvious.
Exactly. And it's the way these things go. We have to really start putting the facts ahead of how we feel about things. And I think there's a lot of things in our world that are mirroring that concept to us now, where we're having emotional reactions to things, and then watching the internet blow up over that before some new information comes along, where it's like, oh, okay, that wasn't even true. Why are we all hating at each other, right? But
exactly.
I think there's so much of that kind of happening that more and more people are kind of noticing that there's kind of something pitting us against each other in a way that's not fair. Kind of hoping that enough people will wake up to that at least we'll be able to, as we're all carving out our own individual spaces, we'll be able to find more and more people that are doing the same thing, that fit in. Like there's going to be certain things that we're just going to have to change about the way we do everything, but if you can kind of find like-minded individuals, then you can get through it. And yeah, I think it's an interesting time. I keep saying, like, I think we're going through some type of like evolution, more or less, and that's the growing pains we're seeing.
I can definitely I definitely agree with that. It's been, I guess, even people who don't really care too much about paying attention to those kind of things, like just in conversations with them recently, they've been like, something feels weird. Something's just off. And my question usually, well, how many lollipops are you willing to get like before you feel comfortable with your body? Like it's just a very, I don't know, it's a very strange thing because again, it's very obvious in your face at this point, where it's like, hey, you should, or even more so, how are you not putting these things together? But again, that emotional pull is so alluring to people, like to just feel something, like even if it's not necessarily like an emotion that they themselves came up with, they're just like, I just want the opportunity to to exude this emotion. And yeah, I mean, it's been working for a long time. So I guess, if it's effective, keep doing it. But it's just, you would think people would start seeing the magic trick after a while.
I've been hoping, and I mean, I think it's starting. Like, I think that one thing I've noticed is when they started moving towards the younger and younger kids, like a lot of moms are kind of putting their back up now and going, wait a second, I don't think my child needs this. Like,
Right.
it doesn't make sense. And then obviously the more information comes out about that itself, the more that people are starting to feel that way. And I don't know, man, like it's so hard to see, the absolute flip flop on how we've viewed human rights 2 years ago to how we are viewing human rights in the public today. Because it's almost like 2 years ago, like human rights was the champion, like that was what we all wanted. Right. And then the joy comes along and we throw that all out the window. Oh, yeah. over a lollipop. And it's a very strange psychosis, I think, is what's going on with our society.
Yeah, I was telling my friend, it's like, people have fought so hard to get these rights in this certain way, and now people are like just dismantling it like with like gusto, like it's, but people don't seem to really it's not that they don't notice. Again, it's like that play on people's emotions of like I want to be a good person, so I'll do this because I think this is what a good person would do. And like, I don't know, it's disappointing, but I do still have hope with people. It's just like, it's a slow burn sometimes.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it doesn't end up in a place where like relating it to evolution, like some type of like one side's Neanderthal and the other side's Homo sapien, and we're separating ourselves like that. Like that's kind of my general fear of like where this seems to be pushing people in a certain way. Yeah. But I think that the technology will be the balance between it eventually. I just hope not too much damage is done before we get there,
Exactly.
Because I'm not, there's things about the technology that I'm really kind of looking forward to in terms of our ability to, like we already had mentioned, create, but definitely our ability to learn. Because, I've never felt very comfortable with the way the school systems are teaching people. And I feel like if you do give people the ability to learn on their own, give them the tools to do that without, I don't say that the teacher needs to be completely removed. I just mean that like maybe the personality of the teacher needs to be kind of removed, because I mean, go all the way back to the wall, and we all know how that, we all know how it has affected people over time. So, there are like, the possibilities there are promising. And so I'm trying to maybe talk to the people who are hesitant, let's call them the technology hesitant, into looking at it more as like we are kind of the pioneers on how it's going to get used, right? So kind of vote by your actions, and say, okay, well, here's the hammer that I've been given. You know, I'm going to go build myself a nice log cabin instead of I'm going to go break a piece of glass or worse, right? So yeah.
No, yeah, I was definitely on that kind of not anti-tech thing, but I just didn't feel comfortable with it for whatever. Like I've always had issues with working with computers or even like music equipment, like where like shit just wouldn't work right, or there'd be weird sounds coming out of it. So I've always had this hesitance towards it. But yeah, like the past like 4 or 5 years, I've just been like what am I doing? Like I've like limited myself in all these aspects of creating that, like I know tons of my friends who are making amazing work that like I look up to, who are using these technologies. And I was like, fuck it, man. Like let's just go ahead and sign up. Like I don't have to like, you know, switch teams or anything, but again, it's like this tool that is there, it's not going anywhere, so you should probably either try to learn how to use it or live with it. So I was just like, fuck it, let's just use it and start making my own stuff.
Well, it's a good attitude. It's a good attitude, right?
Yeah, honestly,
yeah, it's a better way to be. I mean, it's a lot better than, you know, hating the world, because there's too many other things trying to tell us to do that right now. So what we do have control over is ourselves, right? And so it's kind of,
hopefully,
yeah, hopefully we're trying to maintain that control.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I usually try to like tell a funny story or some type of weird story in these things, and I was thinking about one for you. And the haunted name, one of the things I used to do is interview people who had haunted houses, paranormal experiences, right?
Really?
So I was thinking of one to tell, and the first one that popped into my head, I'll just tell it. It's so the woman, she lived with her young son. They had just got this house. When they moved in, there was this crucifix on the wall in a closet. Yeah, like a full-on, like really grossly, like it wasn't a nice crucifix in any way. It was like a really cheaply made plastic Jesus hanging on this. Like,
any crucifix you find is just like, ugh.
Well, of course, right? But this was just like, it wasn't even a good one. You know, this is what I'm like. It looked like something like today you could probably get at a dollar store. You know what I mean? Like it looked like that kind of quality product, but it was on this wall, and so she threw it out. And I hear all this story after the fact, but she threw it out, and the next day it was back, and she was like, you know, kind of accusing her son, like, what'd you do? Like, don't do this, right? So she threw it out again. The next day it was back, and she was like, okay, this is getting weird. So she ended up taking it, like she said, she took it like down the street, threw it out like another dumpster. Next day it was back, and she was like, okay, I don't know what to do anymore. So she burnt the fucking thing. She lit it on fire, and the next day it was back. So this is when she kind of freaked out. And we had gone and we like had the conversation with her. We actually did some experiments where we would take it out of the house, and the next day it was back. And another, you know, just one of those things. Nobody could, who knows why, right? Like, we obviously it wasn't our job to figure out why. It was just to test whether or not people were lying about it, actually. But anyways, a few years later, I hear from a friend who's doing the job that I was doing at the time, and it turns out that they got called back. The woman sold the house, and the next people who bought the house had exactly the same problem. I guess the first woman gave up and just left the fucking thing on the wall. She said she put like crazy. A towel over it and just left it like that. But I guess the new people, when they took over the house, they tried same process, tried getting rid of it. Fucking thing wouldn't go away. So no, strange world, man. Strange world.
So with that, like, why did they feel like it was a haunting? Like, because if I saw that, I would be like, man, there's some weird time anomaly in this one particular wall, that this thing just keeps resetting back to what's going on with here. So was it like a creepy thing that was going on?
Well, I think, well, first of all, the creepiness is that it's a crucifix, right? It starts there.
This is very true.
The creepiness is that
This is
there's
very
this
true.
fucking really creepy looking, poorly made crucifix that will not self-destruct and can be literally taken to another city and still magically find its way back there. That's kind of creepy. But I mean, and you're right. It's, I think we're kind of like, people look at that as like hauntings, right? Like, so the image, maybe it comes from like the Dark Ages and shit. The first thought is that, you know, some spirits like bringing it there, conjuring it there,
Right.
putting it there, right? Where it could be something more like, and you know, you come from anime background, or at least you like anime, so like you see concepts more like that in Japan put forward, where there are like, you know, vortexes where things just are the way that they are. It doesn't matter what you try to do to that area, it's going to replenish itself. It's going to put itself back. So yeah, you're not wrong really in what's happening there. It's not, at least, you know, my professional opinion, it's not a haunting at all. It's something more akin to that. But yeah, the I guess even still, the woman felt pretty haunted by it.
I could imagine.
Could not get rid of the crucifix.
I've only had like really one sort of paranormal experience, I feel like, which is like when I went to art school in Savannah, Georgia, and that town already has like a weird vibe to it. I guess it was some sort of like port for slaves or something like that. But that's how people describe it to me. But when I went out there, you know, there's like a lot of willow trees, a lot of mossy willow trees around the place, creepy kind of vibe. It's next to that paper mill, so it smells like shit all the time. But me and my friend are walking, maybe like 9 o'clock at night or something. But we're walking down the street, maybe 3 blocks away from our dorm, and on this street there's like a lot of, I guess there was an old building that they kind of tore down. They're about to reconstruct it, but we're on the street smoking some weed. At the time, I was what you could call an asshole. I was very verbose. I like starting shit for some reason, but we saw this girl walking. Like if we're walking this way, she was walking this way, and she was just like in this all black, very long dress, very old timey, like almost lacy kind of stuff, long black hair, and and she just looked so out of touch with, you know, the time, that I was just kind of like, yo, what's going on with you? Like, who are you? Like, what are you doing? And she just didn't say anything. She just kept walking, and like, we're coming this way, she's coming that way. She hits the corner right before we do, and so we keep walking, and as we turn the corner, she's just completely gone. There's no alleyways, there's no doors, it's just street. So me and my friend are like, oh, that's a little strange. That's weird. Okay, whatever. Let's just go back. And we make that right, and we take like 5 steps, and this car comes out of nowhere and like whips, and like what's the fucking, what is that term, drifts. He like drifts the car like right in front of us, and this window comes down, and this guy is holding a gun, and in the car you can hear someone say like, should I do it, should I do it? And the dude's like, chill out, and they peel off. And then me and my friend are like, let's just never go back outside. Like, fuck this place. Like, this is, I don't know what's happening out here, but this is terrible. And yeah, that's like my only ghost story.
That's like, never go back outside. That's the appropriate reaction.
Yeah, I was like, because even like the week before, I got chased by some random bum, because I was like, you know, again, this is before, you know, weed was nice and legal and all that stuff. So I was smoking at like midnight somewhere on the street, just trying to be, you know, incognito, and this dude just starts like running after me. And I was just like, okay. And then the week later that happened, I was just like, it's a wrap for going outside. Like,
No more
let's
going outside.
yeah, let's focus on our schoolwork.
When I was a kid, I guess it was probably the end of public school. I was with some guys. Yeah, I guess it must have been because that's when I first discovered cigarettes. We would go to this field and to hide from, you know, all the adults where they could possibly see us smoking. It was a very small town. And there's this big hill in the middle of the field, and then, you know, like acres in every direction of just like open field, like you can see for, you know, miles, as they say, in every direction from the top of this hill. And so we're up there, and it wasn't uncommon. There's a kind of a path that walks through it and then back around through a subdivision. And so it wasn't uncommon to see people back there every once in a while, but most of the time it was just us. So we're out there and we were, you know, hiding, smoking cigarettes and smoking joints and, you know, doing that kind of thing. And this old lady comes up with a dog, like up to the top of the hill, and kind of startles us. We're like, how come none of us, we just blamed it not being stoned, right? We're like, how come none of us noticed she was coming, right? Like, she's all of a sudden materialized there. And she starts giving us this big lecture about smoking, which was kind of interesting, about, how her husband had died from smoking and smoking was bad. And he started when he was about our age and all this stuff, right? We're just like, okay, some widow from town giving us a hard time about smoking, whatever. So we continue on, and then so she walks past us, and we're on the top of this hill, right? So she theoretically had come up the one side. Now she has to walk down the other side. But then it's like miles in a direction that way, or like, you know, a pretty clear shot in a direction that way. So we wait for her. We wanted to light another joint. That's what it was. So we were trying to wait for her to get to make sure that we knew she was at the other end of the hill or down the hill. And we're watching for her. We don't see her. So we end up like running down in the two different directions to look over the other sides of the hill to be like, where the fuck did she go? Like, there's nowhere for her to have gone. Right. She just disappeared. A couple of us quit smoking that day. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I would definitely. Yeah, that thought might cross my mind if I had experienced that for sure. Like,
I always, you know, like there's too many things that they're finding out today. Store memory, right? Like every day I'm reading some new tech article about, we've figured out how to put memory into water. We figured out how to put memory right into a thumbnail. I was reading the other day, like they were talking about like an actual thumb drive being like your thumbnail, and then being able to print it on your. I was like, okay, but like, couple that idea with, you know, anomalies like that, and maybe it is just a matter of some things are storing some type of memory that we don't understand yet. Hopefully one day we'll allow some scientists to explore that kind of stuff a little bit more openly without all of the taboo behind it.
Yeah, because I have a lot of questions I would like to get answered for sure. There's just too many of those kind of instances in my life of just like, how? Okay, all right, let's just move on with life because no one's gonna have an answer to this. But yeah, that would be cool. But yeah, all that technology stuff is kind of crazy. Like the thumbnail thing, like that's, oh boy, yeah. It's like I'm hopeful, and I'm like, but I always still get like anxiety all the time because, but not to like divert back to that whole thing, but it just like you're talking about with, because I've watched so much anime growing up and whatnot, like there's all these themes, which I think is why I resonate with them, because they're usually focused more so on like the spirit world or like AI versus human, like that's usually their takes on it. And yeah, it's always just like they have all like this kind of crazy tech, so like, which is always like, you know, a couple hundred years in the future where it's usually burnt out and in like kind of post-apocalyptic kind of vibe of like people widely misusing the tech for what it was originally made for. So that's why I'm always like have like a little anxiety, because I'm like, oh, we're gonna be like in this movie, Akira, which it was based in 2021 when they made it in 1990, and we're fairly close to what it was in the movie. But yeah, yeah, just I just hope it doesn't go to the anime route.
Well, I mean, like we've been talking about here, and I think it's maybe a good place to leave this is like we have a responsibility. We're kind of the torchbearers for how this is all going to go, right? Like we may
Yeah,
not have any control of how it comes out or like what the technology is, but we do have control over how we use it. And that's like going to be just as true for the metaverse as it is for Twitter today. So,
yeah,
I hope people, choose wisely and just remember that like I think that we need to make sure that we maintain the human element, at least definitely when we're interacting with each other. So
yes,
thanks, man,
more
for
important.
having a human conversation with me, and
Oh,
maybe
thank you.
my country will stop being insane, and I can actually cross that border and get down there to visit one day. But until
Hey,
then,
who
we'll
knows?
maybe we have to do it in the multiverse. Who knows?
Hey, I mean, to be honest, I'm trying to play some shows out there sometime next year. So who knows? Maybe I'll be in your neck of the woods.
Well, keep me posted, brother. It's
Yeah, for sure.
been fun, and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye,
Yeah, you
everybody at
too.
home.
Have a good one.